Welcome to self-discoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Welcome to another edition of Their Story Matters right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest today is Richard Walter. We are going to be talking about his new book, Deadpan. He's a screenwriter, best-selling author, and his new book, Deadpan, which is a funny novel about an unfunny subject, hate speech and bigotry. Providing gobs of entertainment and satiric narrative delivers a body blow to prejudice. Deadpan follows the misadventure of a vaguely anti-Semitic West Virginian brick dealer who wakes up one day to find himself transformed into the world's most popular Jewish comedian. Steeped into magical realism, and narrative confronts the inconsistent issue of our day, identity, intolerance, and the value of free speech, which is very much undergone at the present moment in America. We are going to be talking about this book, probably another one of his books about screenwriting. He is a best-selling fiction and nonfiction writer and screenwriter, a professor at UCLA. He has led the graduate programming in screenwriting for decades. His titles for Penguin, Random House, and screenwriting are in print now. And for 35 years, they have sold over 100,000 copies. His most recent novel, Escape from the Film School at Martin Press. And, he knows what he's talking about. He's got a blog, podcast. He's been around a while. He's not afraid to share his opinion and let us know really where it's at and what it's all about. And quite honestly, we need to look at things that are happening in the world right now with a touch of humor, because if we don't, we kind of feel the proverbial white coats are going to come and get us, because it's so ludicrous with what's going on that we have to find a way to laugh. Otherwise, we're just going to go insane, aren't we, Richard?
Yes, we do. We do. Humor. It's funny. Can I tell a quick joke?
Absolutely.
Um, Patient says to the doctor, "How much time have I got?" And the doctor says, 10. And the patient says, 10 what? The doctor says, 9. Okay, now you're laughing because you realize the guy's dying. What's funny about that? And
I know.
I think here's a quick one. Another patient, the doctor says to the patient, um, "I've got bad news and worse news." So the patient says, "Well, give me the worst news first." He says, "Well, it's cancer. It's metastatic, inoperable. 6 months is about 3 months longer than you have to live." He says, "Oh my God! And what's the news that's just bad?" He says, "Well, we've also diagnosed dementia. You have Alzheimer's disease." So the guy says, "Oh, gee whiz." He says, "At least I don't have cancer." Okay, now, what's funny about cancer?
I
What's
know.
funny?
I know.
The answer is that there's text and subtext. There's what we say and what we mean, and all jokes are about that.
Mm-hmm.
There's tension, there's stress between our not understanding something, and then we get it, and that
Mm-hmm.
there's the release of that stress, and that's the laughter, and it works for, as we've just demonstrated,
Yeah.
um, dreadful, horrible subjects.
Yes.
Why can't we write about hate speech and bigotry and prejudice and darkness and be funny about it? And that's what I've done with Deadpan.
And as I said, so absolutely needed right now. I cannot watch mainstream news. I actually have to watch the comedians to get the news, because they deliver the facts, but they deliver it in a way that, like that spoonful of sugar, it helps that medicine go down. And it's like you look at it and it's like, can anybody actually rationalize this? And it's where, that sense of humor diffuses. It takes away that frustration of, can you hear yourselves? Can you see yourselves? And It's a release valve. And if we don't have that release valve, I think we're going to combust.
It's also a powerful weapon, I think, I remember years and years ago, half a century ago, a discussion on some talk show with a dreadful Southern bigot. I think it was Lester Maddox. He was the racist governor of one of the Carolinas, I think. And he was having a debate with Truman Capote was another guest on the show, the late author.
Mhm.
And Maddox just spit out some horrible, stupid, dreadful, hateful stuff. And Capote was to respond, and all he could do was laugh. He just laughed. There was nothing to do but laugh, and it so effectively disarmed
Yes.
the bad guy.
Mm,
All I was trying to do with Deadpan and is what I teach. I am retired now from the university faculty after more than 40 years on
mhm,
campus in Westwood. But I would teach people that I would plead on behalf of stress and tension.
mhm,
Um, People, if you look at the great dramatic narratives going all the way back, to the beginning of dramatic narrative about 2,500 years ago, Oedipus, the Greeks and Shakespeare. I mean, well, Oedipus kills his father. Everybody knows what he does with his mother. Medea murders her own children in a
mhm.
jealous rage. Macbeth kills his own king, who's a guest in his house, and there's no noble purpose in it. The witches told him he could be king. He's got to get rid of the
Yeah.
the same theme also in Shakespeare, Richard III, who imprisons and then executes his young nephews. He suspects them and accuses them of absolutely nothing. They're just in
Mhm.
his way. Hamlet ends with 9 corpses on stage. We've counted them up in class one day. Some of them have been poisoned, others have been run through on swords. Nobody wants to see the village of the happy, nice people. We we want in our entertainment, in our life, we want calm and we want tranquility and even boredom. And it's in our art,
Yes.
especially in our dramatic art, our dramatic narratives, our storytelling art, novels, literature, film, stage, dramas, and related stuff. There we want stress and tension and I mean, imagine you walk past a theater and the doors suddenly open and everybody's coming out. Clearly, the movie is just finished. And imagine that everybody in that crowd is just sobbing, they're just weeping. Um, eh, would you say to yourself, "Oh boy, that's a sad movie. Those people are really sad. I got to find out what that is and not make sure that I don't go into." No, you would right then and there get in line to see that movie because it's a safe place. I really do believe it's biological.
Mhm.
Um, I'm a privileged guy. I've crossed paths with some of the richest and most successful, famous people, all kinds of movie stars, people who've lived wonderful, wonderful lives. But nobody, not anybody, gets away without
No.
some loss and heartache and frustration and disappointment. And I think if we've had that experience in a simulated circumstance, a
Mhm.
dramatic narrative like a movie, and then it happens when it does happen in real
Yeah.
life, we've had that. We got through it before. We'll get through it
Yes.
this time. It's like a life simulator. Because remember, the movies are fake.
Mhm.
There's nothing less natural than a movie, but the emotions that people feel are absolutely real. The fear, if you're
Yes.
really
Yes.
afraid in a
Mm.
movie, that's real. That's real fear.
Yeah.
So it's a safe place
To
to
spend your
rehearse
emotion.
for our survival when we have to
Mhm.
deal with the unpleasant and worse circumstances in real life. And that's why I think it's biological. If we don't get that,
Mhm.
become in our spirits and our souls, we become distended and misshapen and warped, just as the body does if it's not properly nourished.
I completely agree with you. I mean, it is a way, it's a safe place to have your emotions. You're
Yeah.
too scared to have them in real life. You know, what will people think? The judgment, the this and that. Well, suck it up. But when you go to a movie, You can laugh, you cry, you can be fearful. You're just reacting to the movie. And
Yes,
this is why we also love superhero movies, isn't it? Somebody's going to take care of everything and save us, because
right.
sometimes we feel nobody's out there that's got us. We need that
Yeah,
Superman, right? And
yeah,
we go to the movies, as you said, for entertainment. But for me, it's like with a book or with a movie, a TV show. When I am digesting it and keep rethinking it and keep
yes,
revisiting it, I know that it's either been a parallel or it's brought some attention to me of something I didn't know. And I think the information we get, even from the most frivolous or the most comedic, can be something that can sit with us and go, ah, ha, ha, I hadn't looked at it that way
yes.
before. All right. And I think that in entertainment, it reveals so much truth and awareness that in our own lives, we put blinkers on and we don't want to know. Right. And
Right.
there it is in front of us. And now we see it, we pay attention, we start paying attention to what's around us more. And, I always say that when you're aware, you care. When you care, you do something about it, but you can't be unaware.
Yes. No, it's funny. Years and years ago, I mean, I've done a lot of public speaking all around the world, and I was invited to address an evangelical Christian conference in Chicago. I'm not an evangelical Christian, or not any kind of a Christian. Why were they inviting me? 500 pastors from all across the nation
Mm,
gathered in Chicago for the weekend at a mega church there, and they were asking me because the subject was a narrative in Scripture. If
mm,
you look at what Jews call Torah and Christians
mm,
call the Old Testament, and Muslims call it the Hebrew Bible, or if you look at Christians' own Bible, the New Testament, or Muslims' own Bible, the Quran, there's commentary, there's suggestions, there's observations, there's all kinds of stuff, but mainly there's stories. They
yes.
are not comforting,
Mm,
affirming stories. There's a new, it's not so new now, there's an illustrated version by R. Crumb, brilliant, brilliant artist. He was known for his comics back 50, 60 years ago, Zap comics and so on. He's done a graphic Genesis, and it's not jokey, the first book of the Bible. It's not. It's even more than respectful. It's kind of reverential. So I was rereading Genesis, and one of the first things that happens in Genesis is the story of Lot, an
mm.
old man whose daughters get him drunk so that they can have sex with him and have a incestuously a child. This is not the National Enquirer. This is
Oh.
Holy Scripture held holy by Christians and Jews and Muslims all around the world, billions of people. Once again, it's a safe place
Mm,
to but at the conference, I remember, and I never had a warmer, more loving group there than than I had there in Chicago that weekend. I remember telling the preachers that if you want to keep, and this is good advice also for screenwriters,
mhm,
and I think for all artists who create dramatic narratives, all storytellers, if you want to keep the people in the church Sunday morning, even after they leave the church,
mhm.
meaning they should be, if your sermon was any good, they should be hefting it the rest of the day. And
Yes.
how about the rest of the week? If it were really
Yes.
a profound and deep and provocative and insightful sermon, I said, if you want them to do that, you do not need to make them feel good. You just have to make them feel.
Yes. Yes.
And I mean, if you terrify somebody, you outrage them to make them angry, you make them sad, and so on. They will connect with you. That's what it's all about. There was a television station here in Los Angeles some years ago that decided as a marketing gag or a strategy that they would try out to have just good news. Why do we always have bad news? So I remember they had one story about a group of Girl Scouts who stationed themselves at a dangerous intersection where there happened to be a senior facility where elderly people lived, and they would help people across the street. And they covered this on the news. Um, I mean, can you imagine tuning that in? Nobody watched it. The people do not want to hear about the the good stuff. They want to know, and we need to know about the dark stuff so that we can process it and get on with our lives all the same.
But what I'm noticing now with a lot of news channels, especially here, is, all the way through the news hours, they're basically delivering, the bad stuff. This has gone wrong, that's happening, this is happening. And what they do in the last 5 minutes is share the good stories. And it's like, kind of that dessert after a heavy meal, right? It lightens it up, it cleans the palate, makes you kind of go away. Well, no matter what's going on, something good happened today.
Well, I have no problem with that. It's just that the darker stuff is more exciting, more interesting. If you could have one or the other, you would have the first
But what does
vision.
that say about us, though? Is that, are we only wired for dark stuff? Are we only wired for tragedy? Can we not? Are we not able to live in the light, so to speak, in a heightened consciousness of caring and kindness and consideration? Are we as human beings meant to be barbaric?
Well, that's a great question. There's a British writer. His last name is Storr, Storr, I think, and he has a book. I forget the title of it. It's not well written, in my view. Forgive me if you're watching. Um, but it's quite profound, and it talks about identity. There are about 500 species of mammals,
Hmm.
but there are only two that form groups within the same species that make war, that kill, that steal the territory of other members of the same species, but of a different family, different group.
Hmm.
And those two species are chimpanzees and human beings.
Hmm.
Humans are very very much connected to destruction. From other
Yes.
one of the greatest. All you have to do is peek at the paper this morning or yesterday, or I predict tomorrow as well, to see how much danger there is from other human beings.
Yes.
And I think that your only protection, store says, against that, your major protection against that's the major danger that you face in your life is that you'll be murdered by some other group. Um, and your only protection is to be a member of another group that's big and strong.
Yes.
And so we constantly want to, we have markers that distinguish us as members of a certain group.
Hmm.
For example, I'm a film professor, retired. Um, the, uh, uh, the Oscar-winning Best Picture this year, I think it's called Anora,
Hmm.
and I've seen it. And I just think it's absolutely unendurable, boring, on and on. For the whole thing is like this. And it's also, I'm a strong advocate for free speech,
Hmm.
and I believe free speech allows us to use speech badly. And now you used to not be able to use the F word,
Right.
and now you can. And I'm glad that you can, but it's like she gets a nickel every time she says the word. She's clearly, I'm talking about now the protagonist.
Hmm.
She's ad-libbing and just saying it over and over, and it's just so self-conscious. And so, but I know people. There are people I love and respect, intelligent people who claim to like the movie.
Hmm.
It's not that I disagree with them that I didn't like the movie. It's like I don't even believe that they really liked the movie. I think they are liking and Nora liking a movie like that is a marker for how intelligent we are.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's to the group that we belong to. Years
Bragging
ago, I
rights.
remember actually in 1999, must have been a slow news day because I got a call from a reporter who wanted to know what is the best picture of the 90s. What did I think was the best movie in the 90s? Now, I am not a film buff. I don't go to every movie. And most movies I see I don't like. Most art is that way. I mean, if you go to the Museum of, I grew up in New York City. My favorite museum is the Metropolitan Museum of Art. You won't see one painting there. You won't see one work of sculpture that isn't eternal and timeless, that doesn't
Hmm.
deserve its place there. And you could get the impression, that's the way painting is. That's the way
Hmm.
sculpture is. And what you don't realize is that for every one of those paintings, there are 8,000 stupid, useless, worthless amateur paintings. God
Yes.
bless the amateurs who did them. They want to stretch and reach and be creative. I think it's a
Hmm.
wonderful healing thing to be. But most art doesn't succeed. The problem, when I say succeed, I mean be worthy of engagement
Mm.
from other people other than the person who
Yes.
actually created it. So anyway, the reporter of the book of the 90s, the biggest picture in the best picture in the 90s. I was thinking, let's see, what have I seen and what was it in the 90s? And then I suddenly realized I had one of the great insights really that I've ever had. Um, this is such a huge universe, and theoretical mathematicians and physicists and astronomers tell us that this is just one infinite
Hmm.
universe among an infinite number of such universes. And in all of this vastness, there cannot be one single thing that is less important than what I think was the most important movie in the 90s. And so it liberated me from thinking much about it. And I just blurted out Terminator 2. Now I said that for a couple of reasons. The second reason first. The second reason is they're expecting me. I'm a film professor. I'm an
Mm.
intellectual. I'm a creative. I'm a writer. I'm an author of books. They're expecting me to name some obscure Bulgarian filmic tone poem, and that'll show how enlightened I am.
Mm.
The somebody was telling me the other day she likes the way he moves the camera, talking
Hmm.
about a director. And I said, well, I haven't seen the movie, and I don't know who that is, but he's a lousy director, and it's a bad movie because you noticed the movie. You're not supposed to notice that. The other reason that I cited Terminator 2 is because it really is a brilliant film.
Yes. Yes.
I cite it all the time. The very beginning, Arnold, the Terminator, appears naked
Yes.
he's comes out of he's thrown out of the sky and down
Hmm.
to outside this biker bar somewhere in a rural area, and he walks inside and looks around and measures everybody up, and he comes to the this a guy who's the same size as he is, and he walks up to him and he says, "Give me your clothes and your motorcycle." So what does the guy say? Does he say, "You're out of your mind, you naked Austrian, screw you"? And no, what he says 3 words, 4 words, 6 words, and here they are. Again, Arnold is saying, "Give me your motorcycle and your clothes," and he says, "You forgot to say please."
Hmm.
You see,
Hmm.
it's a perfect example of subtext, but
Yes.
much more important than how important what you say, what we were talking about earlier, and what you mean. He says, "You forgot to say please," as if he said please, then he would give him the. Of course not.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
the way he's telling him off, but much more effectively because it than being on the nose,
Mm.
because it makes the observer, the listener, engaged in what's going on. But really, the most profound thing about it is at the end, as I recall, Terminator is becoming human.
Hmm. Hmm.
And what is it that makes him human? His ability to feel.
Exactly.
And the ability to feel means the ability to feel, among other things, terrible pain, sorrow,
Hmm.
and grief. And when somebody sees a movie like that, even though they're not aware of it, they don't need to be vastly educated and so on. They may be able, unconsciously, subconsciously, down the line, when something terrible happens to them, when they have a grotesque pain, they may be able to thanks to Terminator 2, to recognize that that's just because they're human, and that's the experience of being a human, and it may help them heal from that. It may liberate them from that. So,
But that's the point, though. That what you're saying there is that our experiences is what makes us human. And so
yeah,
Bicentennial Man, Data from Star Trek, they're all wanted to be human because it's, but I'm having these same experiences as you. I'm feeling like you. Just because I'm not flesh and bone, I'm made of something different. Why does that segregate me from the right to be a human? because when it comes down to it, it doesn't matter what vessel we're in. It's how do we feel? Because how
Mhm.
we feel is how we perceive, how we receive, and how we interact,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
so it really doesn't matter. I mean, what is going on right now? You're pink, you're yellow, you're polka dot,
Yes.
you're the all sorts of colors of the rainbow. I hate you because you're this and you're that. And it's like, get over yourself.
Yes.
Whatever casing you're in is just housing your spirit. It's housing your divine intellect, your wisdom, for you to have an experience, a human experience while you're here. Why are you wasting it on
Yes.
petty stuff?
I think that in my previous screenwriting book, the book that is now in print is called Essentials of Screenwriting, but I had a previous book called The Whole Picture. And I talked about these I was talking about this issue of belonging and groups. I believed that it was sort of the end of the Cold War, and I had the impression that I actually had a chapter in it called "The End of Diversity." There would no longer be conflict, and
Mm-hmm.
when the computer came in and the global village and all of that, I thought it would connect everybody and make everybody into a big human family. It seems to
Mm-hmm.
have had exactly the opposite effect. It
Opposites.
seems to have separated everybody and disconnected
Mm.
everybody. And when you're in the room with somebody, I call it 98.6. You connect with them when you're removed from them one step, like for example on the computer. It's easier to rage and
Yeah.
weep and do
Mm-hmm.
destructive
Yes. Yes.
engage in destructive kind of activity. There was a commercial years and years ago. It shows people in a supermarket and they're pushing their shopping carts, but they're cutting each other off and speeding past each other and angry and telling each other off and barking at each other and so on. This is not the way people, this is not what goes on in a supermarket, but it is the way people drive. I
Yes.
believe it's because when you're driving, you're one step removed,
Mm.
and so it's easier to get in somebody's face and really rage about it. And I think, unfortunately, the digital age has
Yeah.
disconnected, pulled everybody apart, and so we no longer connect with each other the way human beings need to. There's so much focus upon how we're different from one another.
Exactly.
Need to focus upon what we will share,
Exactly.
and that is where I think hope lies
Mm.
in the future, if there is a future.
Well, I don't know if you've seen the movie Civil War, the one in Netflix, which is
Yes, I did. I did see it.
a certain person's third term and America in total destruction, and just taken from the photographer's point of view. Um, no intervention, people killing their schoolmates, people they grew up with just because they think differently, and how utterly ridiculous it is, right?
Yes,
It's how petty it is, how small it is, how
yes.
unproductive and uncreative it is, right? And
I don't live very far from Dodger Stadium,
mm-hmm.
and I think last year, maybe the year before, a couple of Dodger fans murdered a Giant fan in the parking lot. He was wearing his San Francisco hat. Why did they, if you ask them,
Isn't that pathetic?
why did they do that? They would
Yeah.
probably say, I don't know. I don't know why I did that.
They're
But
caught up in the
I know
moment.
why I did that because they are afraid of the outsider. They need to show
Yes.
that they belong to this group.
Yes.
I will admit, I will acknowledge I am a Dodger fan. I grew up in
Mm,
Queens, New York. It's Brooklyn adjacent, and
mm.
I went to see the Dodgers at Ebbets Field. I saw Jackie Robinson uh, play. Why do I care? And I still root for the Dodgers, but why do I care?
Exactly. And
It's
why should anybody else care?
because it's
Pack mentality,
biologically, physically
wired in
reassures
us.
me that I belong to this family, and one of our
Mm.
mottos is we're Dodger fans.
It's all a pack mentality, isn't it? You've got to be part of
Yes.
the pack, and if you don't fit into the pack, you're ostracized. My entire platform is always about um, ownership of self. accountability of self, of being your own beautiful signature. Every single one of us has our own energetic signature, right? And it's stepping into who you are, why you are, and what you're here to do, and not being bothered by somebody else's judgment. It's either their insecurity, all right, or they haven't received the invitation yet, um, or they're just unwilling to evolve. And
Yes.
it's easier to go, yeah, 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 than it is to actually put in the work and the time to become self aware, self connected,
Yes.
universally connected, and step in into your own ownership. Um,
You have hit upon one of my key principles in the creation as a teacher of the creative dramatic structure, storytelling really is what we're talking about, and that is that it needs to be personal.
yes,
There's
yes.
somebody who says there's a very famous guy, I won't say who it is, who says the one thing you should not do is write your own personal little story. Nobody cares about that, your adolescent coming of age or whatever.
Hmm.
I say not merely that it's okay to write your own personal story, but that's what you must write. That's the only thing that you can write. It comes through you. You can't
Yes.
help that. Now, a friend of mine who's a professor in the School of Public Health at UCLA wrote a book on alternative health care, non-traditional medical treatment, and so on. And the book opened. He said, "You're a writer. Take a look at this." Before it was published, he wanted me to look at a draft and to give him any advice about it if I had it, but relative to the writing. And it opened somehow like this. In recent years, there has arisen across the nation and indeed the globe a whole array of alternative health modalities and therapies. And in this book, we're going to examine and acupuncture and blah, 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 blah,
Mm.
blah. Well, when I got done with it, here's how the book opens now. In 1994, my infant son was badly burned in a household accident. Isn't that more likely to make you read
Yes. What
on?
happened? What happened?
His mother and
Yes.
I, the doctors told us that the child would need to have a skin graft, that he would have to be hospitalized and tied down so that he doesn't scratch at the graft.
Mm,
And this would be so upsetting for the parents that they would not be allowed to see the child for a week or two. This is like a very little young infant.
hmm.
So right away, I can even see in your face you're not
Yes.
interested about it.
Yes. I will not,
Well, that
you
was not
pry me away
accessible
from my
to
child.
that was not accessible to his mother and me. His mother and me, not his mother and I. It wasn't
Right.
accessible to his mother and I, but his mother and me. And so we looked into da 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 blah 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 and aloe and all kinds of and we
Yeah.
found we were able without tying him down, without abandoning him,
Mm.
so a personal story that actually.
Exactly.
And I'll tell you something
Exactly.
else. I went to school when I went to film school. It was not the UCLA film school where I have spent now over 40 years as a
Mm,
teacher, but crosstown at USC Film School. And at that time, there wasn't much of a tradition of people moving from the academic community into the professional film community. My class was the first one that really changed that. My classmates went on to own Hollywood, except for one, George Lucas, who owns
hmm.
Marin County up in Northern California. And the whole approach that we took there was dictated by the legendary long deceased now Aaron R. Blacker about integration, how everything has to move the story forward. It's really all about story. In any event, George, I mentioned George Lucas.
Hmm.
Um, Francis Ford Coppola asked some years ago, told me that when he formed he was sort of George's mentor. When he formed his company in Northern California, San Francisco, the Bay Area, Zoetrope, American Zoetrope, George was a part of all of that. And George's father was an executive with Xerox. And Francis, who was not above seeking a bargain,
Hmm.
asked George if he could talk to his father about getting special discount rates for photocopy services. And Francis told me that George said, um, "No, I can't do that. I don't get along with my father. We're kind of estranged. He hates that I've gone into the movie business. He thinks I'll never make any money here, and so I can't do that." Now look at Star Wars.
One of my favorites. I've
Who's
watched
the
every
bad
single
guy?
Star Wars there's ever out there.
Who's the antagonist? It's Darth Vader,
Exactly.
V-A-D-E-R. In German, V-A-T-E-R, Vater. It means Father
Yes.
Darth Vader.
Mm.
Luke, I am your father.
Yes.
Um, so here is this big blockbuster commercial movie, entertaining, and yet it has a profound personal message there.
And that's why people connect. And that's why there's been so many spin-offs. And that's why generations after generations are coming in and
And
falling in love with all the Star Wars movies, right? And
our
because
key
it's
principle
relatable.
was that audiences are not stupid, they're smart.
Oh, yes.
So all of those classical narratives that I mentioned, the Greek plays, the
Yes.
Shakespeare, those were not discovered. Those are not little isolated tracts that were
Mhm.
discovered, abandoned in some trunk somewhere in the thesis, the subject of some doctoral thesis. These were the great big blockbuster hits of their day.
Yes.
And the fact that they were enormously popular didn't mean that they were insightful into the nature of the human condition.
Yeah, and we've always got to look at where we're at. How does it reflect our times, right? And when we look back, we go, well, that wasn't very good, but it reflected our times. As we grow, as we evolve, as we learn more, it each time reflects our times. And, for me, I was never big on history at school. Turn to this and he did this and he did that. But when it came to storytelling, there was one book I read as a teenager, Horseman Riding by R.F. Dale Duffield, about a young man that came back from the Boer War, inherited an ironworks, sold it, and became a squire of a valley. And from the 1900s to the 60s, the two wars and life coming out, how it completely changed the landscape of that valley. I learned more about history and how it moved on and how the wars affected it than I ever did from dates and times of this and that. And to this day, I'm just turned 71. I still remember that story really well.
Well, spell history, it's high
Yes, yes.
story. It's
Hmm.
story. As a matter
And
of
I
fact,
think,
in Spanish, it's historia. The word is for story, and history is story.
yes. I mean, since the beginning of time, people have shared stories around the campfire. I
Yes,
pointed to all the books I have behind me. These are books that people have sent me that I've interviewed, and they are the story of their own self discovery, or the
yes,
story that's been with them for so long that finally came out, or a story of how they discovered how to do something and now they want to share it with others, right?
yes,
But it's all a story.
yes. And if you look at the structure of story, go all the way back to Aristotle and
Mm,
the Poetics, a ragged little pamphlet that he wrote, which is kind of the user's manual for story creation. He says every story has three parts: a beginning, a middle, and an end.
yeah.
The beginning is the part before which there is nothing, and the end is the part after which there is nothing. When I lecture about that, I like to take a big silence because I'm waiting at that point because I'm waiting for
Mhm.
somebody to say, "Hey, come on, Richie, what use is that?" And yet, I mean, everybody knows that the story comes first, that the beginning is first. There's nothing before that, and yet, how
Mhm.
many movies
Mhm.
start before the beginning,
Yes.
and go on after the end? The Writers Guild recently, the Writers Guild America, that I belonged to for over half a century, it's the Hollywood Writers Union, recently had an election for members of the board, and emails were sent out with everybody's statements. And these are professional writers. Um, and each one was sending out, a campaign message why you should vote for me. And every single one of them started with something like, "Well, it's election time again, and we need to review the da 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 new leadership, and it's really important that blah blah." And so before, absolutely useless, worthless, telling people stuff they already know that they don't need. We see that this is the election and
Hmm.
your name is at the top of this thing. You don't have to introduce, you know.
Yeah, I know.
So,
Stop
but
stating the
my own
obvious.
my own contribution, every once in a while, first comes Aristotle, then 2,500 years later comes May. I believe that parts of stories have beginnings and middles. There's a beginning
Mhm.
and a middle and an end to every scene. And
Yes, yes,
every part,
yes.
even parts of parts, like every sentence has a beginning, a middle, and an end. If a sentence starts with look, comma,
Hmm.
or or I think, or something like that, that's worthless. Get rid of that. Start at the beginning. Now, the beginning, the point before which you need nothing. But
Mm.
people say to me, yeah, but Rich, that's the way people really talk. So what's wrong with that? Well, is that the way people really talk? It sure is. And
Yeah,
so
it's
what's wrong?
rhythm. It's our rhythm, right? We want to.
But there are two things wrong with it for a movie. One is the second thing first. You don't need to go to the movie theater or turn on the flat screen to hear the way people really speak. It's
Hmm.
right in the street. And
Hmm.
the first reason though is it commits the single biggest sin that you can commit in any corner of creative expression, and that is to say it's boring.
Mm.
The only rule we had at UCLA was don't be boring. The
Mm.
way people really speak, here's the way people really speak. Hey, hi, how you doing? Oh, not so bad. Boy, is this a beautiful day or what? Yeah, they say it's supposed to rain next week, but I doubt it. Oh yeah, hey, did you see Harry? Is he all right with blah 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 blah? That's the way people really really speak.
Yes.
So movies are not real. Art is the first part of artificial. It's supposed to
Mm.
look real.
Well,
Um,
it's how people would like to be.
yes. And one last thing about this: the beginning, the middle, and the end, they're not equal parts. The beginning is short. The big part's the middle,
Mm.
and the end is snappy. That's the fastest part of all. In all narratives, in all really, really well-made narratives, that seems to be the structure of it. And what does that look like? That's an idealized, romanticized human life. Childhood,
Yes.
big, middle, and raise your hands high if you want at the end of your life to be years on resuscitators and catheters and IV tubes and
Right.
so on. A quick ending. And I think that's why I go back to what I said before about personal film. That's why every
Hmm.
single work of art is really, even a painting, even a work of sculpture, it's a memoir.
Yeah.
It's a self-written biography. You
It's where I look at our lives as many chapters in our book of life. All right. And you can have chapters that if somebody laid out a chapter in a fictional way, well, no, that chapter should come here, that chapter should go there. Because sometimes our lives are not in rhythm. They're the high crescendo with an enormous crash, right? But they are our chapters in life. I mean, within those chapters, it isn't just I got up this morning, I did this and I did that. It is like what crisis did I have to face? Or what joy did I find in this one? What reveal was there for me? What invitation of life was there? Did I ignore it? And every chapter is a reveal to ourselves,
yes,
right?
yes,
And it's what we carry over into the next chapter, this reveal, this wisdom, this knowledge that helps us actually participate in that next chapter with
yes,
a great deal more intent.
yes. You're preaching to the choir. I quite agree. I quite agree.
I know that we talked at the beginning about anti-Semitic, and we talked a bit about that, but um, I still, as more of a being rather than a human, look at humanity and go, when are you going to grow up? The universe gave me a saying a few years ago: I'm going to shake you up, to wake you up, for you to step up, and to stand up, to change it up and grow up vibrationally, grow up to a higher consciousness, and just grow up. Why are you still like this? Right? You just because you've been near fundicles for thousands of years doesn't mean you have to stay there. We
Right.
know more, we can evolve. We know that we've got it within us. Why are we not choosing that? All right. And it's like, I know we're drawn to the drama, we're drawn to the crisis, but we've become a soap opera, right? And
Yeah.
when are we going to start kind of having more intellectual drama that is more creative rather than the same old neo-fanatical hitting each other over the head? And
Yes.
I don't get it. Obviously, with anti-Semitic, are we going back to that now? I hate blacks, I hate Jews, I hate Hispanic, I hate this and that. No, what you're really telling me is you hate yourself.
Yes. Yes. It's the human animal
Yeah.
that you don't like. Yes. It's funny. Deadpan is if I were still a professor, I would say it's an homage to Kafka. But since
Mm-hmm.
I'm gone from the university, I say I stole it from Kafka. Uh, there's a short story, the legendary short story by Kafka called The Metamorphosis, in which a man wakes up one morning, discovers that he's been transformed somehow magically into an insect, a bug, a beetle, a cockroach, depending upon the translation from the German. And I thought to myself, what else could somebody wake up as? How about you wake up and you discover that you're a fern? That doesn't sound too promising. How about an antelope? It's a
Mm.
little better, but it occurred to me, what about you wake up and inexplicably, you're the world's most famous comedian,
Mm-hmm.
stand-up comedian. Everybody knows you. And uh, since so many comedians are Jews, I decided to make it
Yeah.
a Jewish comedian. And I recall that there was an outbreak of anti-Semitism in 1973 at the time of the Yom Kippur War.
Mm-hmm.
There were disruptions in international oil supplies, and Americans had to wait in line
Yes.
at gas stations to get gas, and there was an outbreak blaming the Jews for that. Oil tanks storage facilities were spray painted with epithets, burn Jews, not
Yeah.
oil.
Yeah.
Dump Kissinger, the Jewish Secretary of State under Nixon at that time. And I thought, gee, why don't I make the guy who wakes up as a comedian, why don't I make him something of a vaguely anti-Semite? He's not burning, he's
Right.
not a
Not
arsonist,
the
he's not a
extremist.
rapist, he's not a murderer.
Mm.
But he does have these views, and he ends up spending a day in the life of a Jew, and not just any Jew, but the world's most famous stand-up comedian. Who, when he goes out onto stage, he finds himself suddenly on the stage. He says, and everybody's cheering. They all love him. The 5,000 people in a major Las Vegas showroom.
Mm-hmm.
And when he says, "Look, I don't know what's going on here exactly. My name is," and he starts to say what he thinks his name is, and I'm a Buick dealer from West Virginia, and they're saying it along with him. His
Mm.
routine. He's the most famous comedian whose routine is to claim he's the person he really believes that he is. I think there are sweet identity
Yeah.
issues that are raised here. Now he wants to get out of that. He wants to get back to what's familiar. But they're
Mm-hmm.
throwing women at him. They're throwing money at him. Politicians are asking for his endorsement, and it's not such a bad life. Much better than the failing Buick
Mm-hmm.
dealership back in
Yeah.
West Virginia. But the longer that he gets involved in this, and the more he tries to get into this new identity, the old identity comes back calling for him.
You're a fraud.
People like me, enlightened, privileged, cultured, educated members of the intellectual community, the creative community, we 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 were always criticizing other people for their prejudices and their
Mm.
assigning markers to other groups. We don't realize that we have our own markers, I
Yes.
think. For example, most of the people I know would look down on a white Southern sheriff, a
Mm-hmm.
rural law enforcement officer, as being corrupt and just a lowlife. And so I wanted to create a Southern sheriff who's a justice-seeking, a truth-seeking, honorable human being, and he's tracking down the comedian has been involved inadvertently. Some friends of his they didn't tell him what he was going to do, but they ended up desecrating a synagogue. And the rabbi is telling the police officer, no, 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 leave it alone. you'll just stir up a lot of hatred. We've dealt with so much worse than this over our thousands of years of history. But
Mm,
no, the police officer is saying, no, well, this is America. We don't tolerate that. We have to do. There have to be consequences. So that all by itself is a reversal of what we usually expect. The rabbi
mhm,
saying, "You better have to," and the other guy saying, "Oh, what's the big deal?" So that's interesting, right away. I think. But I also wanted this guy to be finally catching our comedian and bringing him back to face trial in West Virginia. And when he does, his friends, they're all members of a Dixieland jazz band, they're amateur musicians, and when they get together one night to rehearse, they take off to desecrate the synagogue, but he doesn't know what they're doing. They don't tell him, but he goes along with it. They spray paint slogans on it. When he comes to trial at the end of the story, they lie. The other guys
mm,
testify. They say he thought it
yeah,
all up. We didn't want to do it. We tried to talk about it. He coerced us into doing it. Now the reader knows that's not true, but when he himself comes to testify, he says, yes, it's true. He lies like they did, except he's telling the opposite thing. But they said that's all true. It was all my idea. It's not their fault. It's all my fault. So what has happened really is that he has become
yes,
what? A Jew? Which Jew? The most powerful Jew that ever breathed. Jesus. Isn't that what Christians believe that Jesus Christ did? He
mm,
took on himself
yeah,
the guilt, the sins of others,
mhm,
so that they could go and live at eternity in the kingdom of heaven on God's right hand. So that's really what it's sort of all about. And finally, at the end, he gets into another business and is revealed there's another oil crisis. It all takes place, almost all of it, in
mm,
1973. But then there's another oil crisis at the end in 1979 when the Shah of Iran is ousted and the Ayatollahs are installed. And the Shah of Iran is a character in the book. Um, when that happens, there's gas lines again, and this guy is get caught up in a slight prejudice. He desecrates some. He's now living in the Southwest, and he desecrates he smashes the window of La Raza, some Chicano Latino social activist group, and suddenly he's in a dressing room again in a nightclub, but it's Spanish. He hears norteño, northern Mexican music playing in the background, and they're introducing him as the famous musical artist. And what I'm trying to say, again, I always tell writers, don't try. You're trying too hard. Just write, and then you look back and you
yes,
see what you said. And
yes,
I
yes,
realized that what I was saying is the problem is not arsonists and murderers.
mm,
There are
exactly,
always lunatics like
mm,
Hitler around.
right,
What worries me is not a Hitler, but the tens of millions, scores of millions of enlightened, sophisticated, cultured, educated, intellectual, decent people who go along with that.
exactly,
And
exactly,
so that's what we need to do. Stop worrying about everybody else's prejudice
exactly,
and think about your own. I am pleased to brag that when I got to the university in the 70s, the writing program at UCLA in the film school was a white boys club. And my colleagues over the years and years before Lloyd George and all of the reckonings that we've had lately, diversified that group. We did it for two reasons. The second reason is that we thought it was a principled thing to
yes,
do. But first of all, it's more interesting.
exactly,
Who wants everything to be the fact that there are different flavors and
exactly,
aromas and accents
yes,
and languages?
yes,
That's not some mistake that God made, but
no,
testimony to her greater glory.
yeah. Yeah, and I think when we I talk a great deal about insecurity, and you're narcissists, all the people that are out there that are righteous, or the white man's going to go if we don't save it now and eliminate everyone else. That's your insecurity. That's the lack of you taking ownership of your own choices. And ultimately, I think the journey that we're here for is to discover who we
Yes,
really are, what we're really here to do, what impact are we meant to have? Are we
yes,
meant to leave it a better place? Just like, a book, a movie, a TV show, or a good conversation, you want it to linger long after you've gone,
yes.
right?
Uh,
So, you want to know that the impact that you've made has had a positive impact on society or people
yes,
or something that you feel
there,
you've really been a contributor, not a
yes,
contributor to the problem, contributor to the solution.
there has fallen across the publishing industry and also across the universities a
Yeah.
plague of comfort.
Yes.
Um,
Complacency.
my last novel, this is my third published novel, my sixth published book. I was bragging about the success of the screenwriting books.
Hmm.
My last novel was a bestseller, Los Angeles Times bestseller. It earned out its advance in its first printing. It went to multiple printings in cloth and trade paper. I tell you this because no agents would, even my own representatives who'd made money on the book, it would even respond to a query about a book that at this time is examining racial
Mm,
and religious identity. And I was able to connect with Heresy Press, Bernard Schweitzer, my publisher and editor, the founder of Heresy Press, also my hero, who was troubled by what was happening in the publishing business. In a classroom now, everybody wants to feel comfortable.
yeah.
So I thought my job as a teacher was to make people feel uncomfortable,
Yes.
to provoke them and
Think, think,
disturb them
think,
and
think.
upset them. Sometimes I would even embrace positions I don't hold, only to goad people into thinking for themselves and coming up
Yeah.
with their own, rather than just communicate data. And what was I teaching? I was teaching narrative creation,
Hmm.
screenwriting. The last thing you want in your among your audience in your movie is for them to feel comfortable. You want them
Right.
to be disturbed. You want them to be upset. You want them. You
To
imagine if
be
you walked
empowered
out and
too.
you saw
Yeah.
somebody like trembling, like they're going to fall over, and you help them out and you sit them
Yeah.
down on a bench and they say, "Thanks a lot. I'm okay now." It's just a terribly disturbing, upsetting movie that I saw. You'd want to see that movie too. We need to exercise our human emotions and feelings so that they don't control us in the real universe in
Yeah.
ways that can be really, really destructive.
There was at the Emmys recently, I think it won 13 awards, Adolescence, just a three-part thing
Mhm,
of a
mhm.
young boy that kills another little girl.
Yes,
And it's all long shot. It's all brilliantly written and acted. The young man just, I mean, if this was his first job, I mean, just phenomenal. He did win an award. But again, that's one of those ones you want it to provoke a conversation, right?
yes, yes.
Oh, not, oh, we saw Jolly Dean, now it's over next. No,
Right.
provoke a conversation.
Yes.
All
Art is
right.
not about answers, it's about
Yeah.
questions.
Yes, exactly. And that's what life is about.
Yes.
Right? And, it's like, oh, I know it all now. How boring. I think one of the things that we've forgotten is how to be wondrous, how to be inquisitive. As
Yes.
I said, I've just turned 71. I'm about to become a grandma number three any moment now. Literally, I could have a phone call any moment now. And it's all about what else is there out there? And, for me, I'm always looking for the human being that steps into the higher consciousness that,
Mhm.
chooses to to illuminate the world and shed light on the path that we can take. But we've got to take it. It
Yes.
isn't for somebody to do it for you. You've got to walk it
Yes.
and
If you're
experience it.
71, I have two words for you. Young woman. Uh, and I will tell you that the only thing better than children, grandchildren, it's
Absolutely.
all of the fun and none of the cholesterol.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to have three boys, 4.5, 2.5, and a newborn. So they're
Wow.
definitely going to keep me busy. But, the thing is, one of the things that I think happens to human nature, complacency. And, especially in an automated world, we have everything automating for us,
Yes.
which for me is it's automating so that you're freed up to discover. Not
Yes.
become complacent and sit and become lazy and dull, but to discover. I don't need to spend all my time doing this. Automation, AI, whatever can do this. And now I've got time to go and read that book, go to that movie, have that conversation, make a discovery, try something different,
Yes.
right? That's what
Problem
it's about.
in our world is not that evil people do evil things. It's that people go along with it.
Yeah, sheeple
And
bearing along.
I look back at over my life, and I'm old enough to know that I've really lived a privileged, advantaged life. But I'm horrified by recalling now things that I just went along with that were not right, that were not
Yeah.
principled. It was just the easy way to go. So it's not just lazy,
No,
but
sometimes they just want to fit in or don't rock the boat, right?
not
Yeah.
just sometimes, but most of the
Yes,
time,
yeah.
I'm afraid. Yes, yes.
We
And
all
that's
want to be identified. We all want to be popular. We all want to count. And we think that we count if we join the pack and we know, oh God, gosh, do I really have to do this to belong? And, this is where you've got your movies, Mean Girls, and this and that showing.
it's funny.
It's all about choice.
I was having dinner with two pals of mine. We go back all the way to New York and first and second and third grade. And we were talking about stereotypes. I was saying that I would have no problem if one of my children wanted to pursue a career in law enforcement. The Somebody else, the other one of the other guys said, "No, you wouldn't." He didn't say I wouldn't. He said,
Yeah, yeah.
I said, well, why would I say that I would if I wouldn't? He said, because you're
Mm,
delusional.
mm,
Uh, Later on, and this is the most important part of it, he got up to go off and visit the restroom, I guess. And I was alone with the other guy at the table. The other guy, a professor at UCLA, not in film, a longtime pal of mine in the School of Public Health. When we were alone at the table, he leaned over and whispered to me that he agreed with me.
mhm.
Um, he didn't want our friend to know. He didn't want people. Again, why not? And the answer is
Yes.
hating police is a
Mm.
marker for our identity. I know
Uh-huh.
somebody whose son dropped out of college, dropped out of Stanford, and then he dropped out of another college, and the family was horrified that he wanted to get ready for this, go into the military.
Mm,
Well, he went into the military. When I heard that, I said, "Well, that sounds like a great idea. He'll find structure
mm.
and purpose, and they'll train him and so on." They were just horrified by it. Well, a year later, I ran into them. He's doing great. He's born again. He's been trained to do so, and he's following the. Da, 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 da.
Mm.
We all of us
Yeah.
have these markers, and people like me, we think we're above the rest of everybody else, but we're not. We're just as bad as everybody else.
But when we're willing to be aware of it, and when you're aware of it, you can correct it. I think it's when people walk around blinders and things, oh la la, I don't want to know, I don't want to know, I don't want to know. It's like that's how Hitler and those people come into power. That's how
Yeah.
Megger has the power right now. Because people have chosen to believe one thing, oh, they're going to take care of this for me. And then they completely turn blinders on to all the other horrors that are going on.
Yes.
Oh, that doesn't affect me. Everything has a ripple effect. It will affect you. And I think this is where we need to take the blinkers off, the blinders off, and go, okay, I don't need to be saturated by everything, but I need to be aware of how I'm reacting to it.
Yes.
All right. And whom do I hold accountable for actions that are against humanity? All right.
Yes. You have to recognize that it's okay
Mm-hmm.
to be sinful, to be imperfect.
I call it
Um,
flawsome.
I would tell
Beautifully
writers,
flawed.
don't let excellent get in the way of good. Um,
Yes. There
we
is no
try
such
to
thing
make
as
a
perfection, right? Only
yes,
perfect moments. Yeah.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And
That's just the
flawsomeness
human
is it.
condition. We are all flawed,
Yeah.
and certainly all of the protagonists in all of the great plays, the great narratives
Mm-hmm.
you talk about, all of them are grotesquely flawed, and that's what makes us interested in them because we can instead of feeling. I'm actually wearing a Sopranos hat. Um, the I loved The Sopranos. Tony Soprano is as different from me as anybody could
Mm,
be. I'm an author and an educator, and he's a Jersey mob boss.
mm,
But when I see him and watch that show, I don't feel separated from him. I
mm.
see a guy who's connected to me, who has arguments with his wife, disagreements with his adolescent children, who
His
struggles.
insecurity, his struggle, his, yeah.
So it's about not separation, but connection. And I think we
Hmm.
feel at our happiest if we get to be happy when we feel connected to this universe. It's an enormous universe,
It
but there's a
is.
place here for you, and it fits you exactly, and you're right there now.
Open up your eyes, start to feel. I'm very much about wisdom over knowledge because wisdom shows you what knowledge is relevant in the now,
Yes,
right? So
yes,
feel your knowledge. If you just think it, you're dealing with data, you don't know how to use it. When you feel it, you then know how to actually use that wisdom in a way that is relevant to the now.
that's right. Well, you don't need, I mean, you're just echoing the single most important point that I make, which is that there are two aspects to the human condition. There's intellect and thinking, the brain, the
Hmm.
head, on one hand, and then there's feeling, the heart, the
Yes.
belly, the groin,
Yes.
am I
Oh,
allowed to
yes.
say? And we tend to think that these things break down evenly, but they don't. It's
Mm-mm.
emotion is much, much, much stronger and than intellect. And that's what again, just telling about the preachers, that is what your only task as an artist is to make the observer, and if you're writing novels and screenplays, then it's an audience, it's a bunch of observers, make them feel something, make them share the passion that you have. You wouldn't have gone into this if you weren't
Exactly.
passionate. I never met a writer, I never met an artist who didn't
Yeah.
see himself or herself as somebody deeply, deeply feeling a passionate
Hmm.
person. Your assignment is to get that passion to other people, and if you do, if you they will like what you do, and they will recommend it to other people, and that's what sells books. That's what sells movies. Not advertising, but it's word of mouth. People saying,
Picket
"Boy, look at
fence.
this, look
Yeah.
at this."
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't tell you how
Absolutely.
many times I've said about somebody sees a movie and I haven't seen it, and I'll say, "Well, tell me, is it good? Should I see it?" And they'll say, "Well, yes." There's, and I immediately I know they didn't really like that movie. They're just
Mm.
afraid to tell the professor, as if I had
Yeah.
a list of the
Right.
approved a proper movie. On the other hand, if somebody says to you, "Say, is that a good movie?" You say, "Whoa!" I was
Mm.
scared out of my. Oh, yes, that I want to see.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going for. We're going for
Yeah. We,
feeling,
we want people to tap into their emotions because it wakes them up to thought and to feelings, but we don't want you to become emotional about them,
right?
right? We just want to wake up the emotion so you feel something because when you feel something, you see it differently. When you see something differently, you act differently, you do something different. It's a
Yes.
shake up.
Yes, and you do something different in life than you do
Yes.
in art,
You
because
live.
art, again, is a safe place. I'm
Hmm.
going to say it again. It's the first part of the word artificial.
Yeah.
You can't really get hurt by that. And so
Mm.
you're safe to explore it and become familiar with it and deal with it more effectively when it is real on the outside in your actual life as opposed to your art.
Exactly. 100%. This has been absolutely fabulous. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too. Thank you.
Um, Now, where do people buy the book? Deadpan, a novel, Richard Walter. Where do they find the book? Where do they find you? And do you have a couple of social medias you can share?
Yeah, well, richardwalter.com will take you to my site, and you can order the book there. It's available even in bookstores if you can find a bookstore that
Mhm.
and it might not be there, but of course, Amazon and Barnes and Nobles, all of the online book distributors, and also you can go to my courageous publisher, Heresy Press, and get it directly from them. So like I say, just go to Amazon and punch my name in, or go to Richard Walter. There's no S, richardwalter.com, and it'll have a tab there, and you can get the book real easily. I promise Anybody reads the book, they will get a yuck out of it. They will get a laugh out of it. I've had a lot of good responses. That's what I was trying to do,
Hmm.
was to be funny.
Right. Exactly. So it's richardwalter.com, or you can go richardwalterbooks.com.
Yes,
Twitter, Professor Walter, or Prof Walter, Prof Walter. Facebook, Prof Richard Walter. And you're on Substack as Richard Walter, so people can follow you along there as well.
yes, yes, they can. Indeed, they can.
I love it, there is no age anything. All it is experience. As we get older, all it is that we've had more experience. We kind of know more things of what really works and what doesn't work, but we're still navigating. We're going to navigate to the day that we leave these bodies, right? But that's what
Yes,
makes it exciting. But when people who have really lived life and come and share their wisdom, we really know we're getting substance, we're getting content, we're getting something that's not just being thought of, but felt over and over again, tried and true. And I say books are a wonderful gift to give, either birthdays, somebody needs a good laugh, or Christmas as it's coming up, and put it on your list for Christmas. And get it, give a book, because a book is something that keeps on giving. It is an embrace. And if it provokes thought, provokes conversation, just provokes thought within yourself, conversation within yourself, then it's done its job. But folks, please do read because
yes.
reading is something that really is going to shed light on life in itself.
Well, if you think about it, it's ink on the page, reading literature, that's the most interactive of all media. We
Yeah.
just have these 26 letters, black ink on white page most of the time. And what we get out of that is sound and image and drama and emotion. It's really wonderful to read an engaging book. I think it's more engaging than the fanciest digital flat screen presentation.
And the other thing about reading a book, it's going to be your interpretation of how you feel from where you come from. When you watch a movie, that's the other person's interpretation of how it is. And it's always quite intriguing to read the book and then watch the movie and then reflect on what the differences are or what the similarities are, right? But when you're reading, you're putting yourself into one of those characters. You're feeling and identifying with those people. It's intimate when you're reading.
Yes, yes. And when you're watching a movie, you're the screen. I mean,
Yes.
reading a book, you're the projector.
Yeah, yes, I like that very much. Well, thank you so much,
Thank
Walter.
you for
That's really.
inviting me. I enjoyed it.
And don't forget, richardwalter.com. You can find everything there. You can find them on Amazon. Don't forget to reach out, make comments after listening to the show. Don't forget it's good gift to give to people. But we learn from people who have taken our path before. And sometimes all we need to do is just look at something differently, from a different angle, a different point of view. I hadn't seen it that way. I hadn't felt it that way. I didn't know about that. Now it's just shifted you in a different direction, which is just going to enhance every aspect of your life. So thank you so much, Richard, and to everyone else out there. Bye for
Thank
now.
you. Thank you. Bless your heart.
We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tag at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration, it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.